Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharidhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharidhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharidhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astatara Sata Shri Shriman Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astatara Sata Shri Shriman Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Bol Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnaprasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Dhammat Swanamati Namane Prachare Purvadakshan Shabhakta Charakavinta Prata Tapikaya Namyasya Sarvachite Namaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya We're continuing the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, first chapter, Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu, texts 7 and 8. Tosha Pratosha Santosho Bhadra Shantir Idaspati Idma Kavir Vibhusvana Sudevo Rochano Dvisat Tosha Pratoshat Santosho Bhadra Shantir Idaspati Idma Kavir Vibhusvana Sudevo Rochano Dvisat Tosha Pratosha Santosho Bhadra Shantir Idaspati Idma Kavir Vibhusvana Sudevo Rochano Dvisat Tosha Pratosha Santosho Bhadra Shantir Idaspati Idma Kavir Vibhusvana Sudevo Rochano Dvisat Tosha Pratosha Santosha Bhadra Shanti Idaspati Idma Kavi Vibhu Svana Sudeva Rochana Dvisat 12. The translation. The 12 boys born of Yagya and Dakshina were named Tosha, Pratosha, Santosha, Bhadra, Shanti, Idaspati, Idma, Kavi, Vibhu, Svana, Sudeva, and Rochana. Text 8. Tushita namate deva asan swayambhuvantare marichi mishra rishayo yagya sura ganeshwara. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. During the time of Swayambhuva Manu, these sons all became the demigods, collectively named the Tushitas. Marichi became the head of the 7 rishis, and Yagya became the king of the demigods Indra. Purport. During the life of Swayambhuva Manu, 6 kinds of living entities were generated from the demigods known as the Tushitas, from the sages headed by Marichi, and from descendants of Yagya. Yes, I'm sorry, it's not working.
They played around with it on the weekend, so it's not working. We're very sorry.
Sorry, Telekini. Maybe they could hear from the Facebook.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm starting that again. During the life of Swayambhuva Manu, 6 kinds of living entities were generated from the demigods known as the Tushitas, from the sages headed by Marichi, and from descendants of Yagya, king of the demigods, and all of them expanded their progeny to observe the order of the Lord, to fill the universe with living entities. These 6 kinds of living entities are known as Manus, Devas, Manuputras, Amshavatars, Sureshvaras, and Rishis. Yagya, being the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, became the leader of the demigods Indra. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're hearing in the beginning of the 4th canto about this genealogical table. Yes, we're hearing who was born from whom. And we go through these sections sometimes in Srimad Bhagavatam, where we hear a lot of names, a lot of, this personality was born from this personality, and from them came them, and in that way we hear how the Lord's devotees take birth, actually. This is what we're hearing, because from this introduction, we're going to begin hearing about the glorious character and pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj. That's what we're leading into. And so we hear about these personalities who have service which is beyond the capacity for us to understand. Their service is to expand the progeny of the universe. And they fulfill that in very glorious ways, and that there are so many personalities, their great sages are coming from them, and then from them are born so many other personalities that then populate the universe. So this is an important service that Krishna has given to very exalted personalities, and so we're hearing some of their names today. The boys born from Yagya and Dakshina, and then coming on from them, the sages. And when I was looking at this, because personally I always find it a bit difficult, how do you comment on something like that? You know. But when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, what is the context of this? And as I mentioned, it's going to lead into hearing these wonderful pastimes. We're going to hear very soon, this is now King Uttanapad comes in this line, and then his son Dhruva Maharaj and Uttama, and then we'll hear all about the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj. So there's that. Hearing all of these names is very important. Now, so important that Shukadeva Goswami spoke this to Parikshit Maharaj when he had 7 days to live. So it wasn't as if he was saying things that weren't relevant. It wasn't as if he was speaking just to, pass time or just giving little details that weren't really very important or relevant. Everything that Shukadeva Goswami spoke to Maharaj Parikshit was in answer to his questions. What is the ultimate duty for every person, and what is the ultimate duty of one who is about to die? And based on those questions, Shukadeva Goswami gives the Srimad Bhagavatam, gives this wonderful explanation of the Lord and the Lord's devotees, and every part of that is meaningful. Even these lists of names, they're also a very meaningful part of the Bhagavatam. So I'll probably give a shorter class today, but I wanted to share some Bhagavatam nectar, because this Srimad Bhagavatam, as we know, is as brilliant as the sun. It has arisen in this dark age of Kali Yuga to what? To shine the light of transcendental knowledge, to actually, this is Krishna. This is Krishna in this age. So it's, at least for myself, I was really trying to think about this, trying to meditate on this, that actually every syllable, every word in the Bhagavatam is important. And it was given to uplift us. It's given to help us develop our Krishna consciousness. This is what the Bhagavatam does. We're hearing now from the beginning of the 4th canto, so we're focusing still here at the Lord's lotus feet. It's showing us how to see Krishna. It's teaching us how to approach Krishna. It's perfectly composed so that everything in it is meaningful. Now, as I mentioned before, the questions that Parikshit Maharaj placed before Shukadeva Goswami. So this is in the 19th chapter of the 1st canto, verse 24, where we've heard in the beginning of the 1st canto of the appearance of Parikshit Maharaj, his quality, his character, what a personality. Then we hear of his situation when he is cursed by Shringi, and then he decides to fast until death. He goes to the sacred river. All of the sages come to see him. Wow, what a great king. He is going to die, and he has made this decision to leave everything. The sages just wanted to be with him. They just wanted to be with this great personality while he was going through this final transition. And so they've all assembled around him. And Parikshit Maharaj, he says to them, this is verse 24, "O trustworthy Brahmanas, I now ask you about my immediate duty. Please, after proper deliberation, tell me the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those who are just about to die." And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Maharaj Parikshit placed these 2 questions before Shukadeva Goswami also. on his arrival. And practically the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning from the second canto up until the last 12th canto, deals with these two questions. So everything that we hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam is dealing with these two questions. Very pertinent, very important questions for every single one of us. What is the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically one who is just about to die? So that's the context of the Bhagavatam, and I find for myself it's helpful to remember that context when maybe approaching sections of the Bhagavatam that are more challenging to understand, or may not be that that we're going through an active pastime that's very, but we're hearing the lists of names of great personalities. But even those lists of names are so purifying, are very important. They're actually part of the answer of the great sage Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit's very wonderful questions. So for myself, just trying to remember that, trying to meditate on that point. And right in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear so many glories of the Bhagavatam. So this is from the purport of the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada says, Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration of the Swarup of the Lord, manifested by his internal potency. What an amazing sentence. Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration of the Swarup of the Lord, manifested by his internal potency. And this potency is distinguished from the external potency, which has manifested the cosmic world, which is within our experience. So the Bhagavatam is not within our experience. And the Bhagavatam is, I was really, really struck by this, always have been. Bhagavatam is the narration of the Swarup of the Lord. This is the form of the Lord there, manifested by his internal potency, by Srimati Radharani, by the Hladini Shakti. This is the Bhagavatam. The manifested cosmic creation appears as reality, Prabhupada says, but reality, of which this is but a shadow, is in the spiritual world. So this is the realization, this is what Prabhupada is giving us. Through his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says, this Bhagavatam, this is the Swarup of the Lord. This is the form of the Lord. This is the internal potency. This is the spiritual world. Here it is. Go through it. Go through it carefully. That's what the study and hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam brings us to. And the second verse of the Bhagavatam, as we know, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. This is the Bhagavatam. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Yes, this is what's there right in front of us. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, for this second verse, the intelligent person with thoughtful discretion can be assured by the great sage Vyasadeva that he can realize the Supreme Person directly by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. We can realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the third verse, O expert and thoughtful men, relish the Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, its fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. This is the quality of the Bhagavatam. Even liberated souls relishing the Srimad Bhagavatam. and Srila Prabhupada says in that purport, one should conclude, therefore, that the serious student of rasa should receive the message of the Bhagavatam in the chain of disciplic succession from Srila Shukadeva Goswami, who describes the Bhagavatam from its beginning, and not whimsically to satisfy the mundaner who has very little knowledge in transcendental science. So this Bhagavatam is being described perfectly from the beginning. You know, as Srila Prabhupada goes through so many times in the Bhagavatam, we don't simply approach Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, his pastimes with the gopis. We go through the Srimad Bhagavatam properly in order to gain that proper realization that is there, that is contained within the Bhagavatam. And so going through systematically, as we do in Bhagavatam class, this is drawing us closer and closer to the proper entrance into Krishna's pastimes. Even as we sit today and hear these names of the 12 boys born of Yagya and Dakshina, you know, we can meditate on this, that actually this knowledge that is being given is drawing me closer to Krishna. It's allowing me, if I hear properly the Srimad Bhagavatam, if I'm, you know, submissively approaching the Bhagavatam, then this knowledge, this understanding is going to allow me to directly perceive, directly understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how important is every